There's a new site in the search for Chandra Levy. What brought police to this spot? And a huge Big Apple crowd welcomes Bill Clinton to Harlem for his first day at his new office. Not everyone wants the former president in that part of town. We'll tell you why, and we'll take you behind the scenes. Plus, just say and everybody's got an opinion. Mike Tyson, now facing a new accusation of rape. Is the boxing legend facing another courtroom battle? Hi, everybody. I'm John Gibson, and this is the big story for Monday, July 30th, 2001. The search for Chandra Levy, more frustrating with each passing day. After almost 3 months of combing for clues, D.C. police are beginning to sound more pessimistic they will ever crack this case. With no physical evidence, no crime scene, and no solid leads, investigators are left with more questions than answers. Senior correspondent Rita Cosby has the very latest on the investigation from Washington. Rita.
Hi, John. D.C. police have hit a brick wall and say that they have no major leads in this case. Law enforcement sources say police and the FBI will now review interviews that they've done with convicted sex offenders in the area, as well as Chandra Levy's neighbors and also her co-workers. They say they still have questions surrounding Gary Condit, but for now they are putting that phase of the investigation on hold. And police say the park search for missing intern Chandra Levy will be scaled back by the end of the week. Today, police recruits combed a place called Roosevelt Island, located in the Potomac River across from the Georgetown waterfront. It's a place frequented by homeless people, especially at night. So police are not putting a lot of stock in the items that they were able to locate there today. They include a pair of men's blue jeans, a switchblade, and a striped sweater. Police are still analyzing those items just to be sure. This will be the final week that police recruits will be scouring wooded areas in Washington. They've been doing this now for 2 weeks already and need to return to their training soon. They probably would not be used again unless a significant tip requires that level of manpower. Meantime, police are analyzing the transcript from that fourth interview that they conducted with Congressman Gary Condit that took place last Thursday. The session lasted about an hour and a half and was focused on creating an FBI profile of Chandra Levy, who she was, where she liked to go, what type of person might try to cause her harm. Police sources say Levy made few friends during her 8 months in Washington and spent most of her spare time with Condit, or actually waiting for his call, that she would often wait around for hours just to get in contact with him. As Fox News first reported more than a week ago, cell phone records belonging to Levy show that she called her own answering machine often during the week before she disappeared. Now, some investigators believe that this indicates that she was anxiously awaiting someone's call. Law enforcement sources also tell Fox News that Levy's home phone records, show that no phone calls to Condit took place in the final 3 days before her May 1st disappearance. Now, this is interesting because this seems to be in variance with Condit's own account of his calls to Levy. He told police that he returned Levy's call on April 29th and that was the last time that the two spoke. Possibly she may have called him from a payphone, or maybe he actually initiated the call instead. John, back to you.
Rita, so I'm counting it up as we go along. It sounds like zip, nothing, nada, all the way through. So does that mean they're back at square one?
It sounds like they're back at square one. And in fact, since the FBI has really taken a greater role on this case, really just in the last few weeks, the FBI is basically, what I'm hearing, telling the D.C. police, wait a second, let's go over the information. Let's see what you have so far. See what areas maybe you didn't check out. In fact, we know that some individuals who work with her at the Bureau of Prisons, who used to work with Chandra Levy there, still have yet to be interviewed. So there may be some more avenues that they need to explore, and they also want to go through some of the statements made by other people just to see if they're missing something else. In the meantime, they're also going to go over, John, some of the statements that Gary Condit made in all 4 interviews, just to see if there are any inconsistencies, anything interesting that maybe they did not notice before.
Rita Cosby in Washington. Day after tomorrow, it is 3 months. Rita, thanks a lot. The big story is indeed the search for Chandra Levy, and we'll have more for you in just a moment. But first, a quick check on the other headlines with Todd Connor at the Fox News Desk. Hey, Todd.
Hey, John. Thank you very much, and hello, everyone. A school in Los Angeles is under lockdown, and an officer is in the hospital after a shooting. Police say the gunman hit the officer in the chest. The teen and another one with him then ran from the parking area at Belmont High School. The officer survived thanks to a bulletproof vest. A search is on for the suspect. A high-speed crash in North Little Rock, Arkansas ends with a toddler dead and another child is critically injured. It happened last night. The speeding car plowed into the back of another vehicle. Cops who had been chasing the car say the driver appeared to be drunk. You know, rain or shine, the Postal Service always delivers its mail, and today all the talk was about another mail delivering, Lance Armstrong, this year's winner at the Tour de France. Armstrong became the first American to win the event 3 straight times. The Postal Service was this year's team sponsor, so they had a party. And finally, 20 years from now, tennis fans could be treated to a love match for the ages. After beating Pete Sampras in a tournament yesterday, Andre Agassi put $100 on his baby, beating Pete Sampras' baby in a tennis match. Sampras says his kid would have a height advantage, but Agassi gets the genetic edge with tennis superstar and fiancée Steffi Graf expecting in December. And those are the latest headlines. Now back to the big story with John Gibson.
All right, Todd, thanks a lot. So, 91 days after her disappearance, has the Chandra Levy trail gone cold? What are the chances of ever solving this case? Joining me to talk about where the search for Chandra Levy goes from here are Terry Lenzner, a private investigator and a Fox News senior judicial, and our Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. So, Judge, here we are, almost exactly 3 months into this thing, and the cops are essentially saying we're at a dead end. So what now?
Well, what now is to accelerate the pace of what they haven't done. They need to call in a grand jury. They need to hold witnesses before a grand jury. They have lost precious time. Terry will tell you, and any experienced investigators will tell you, the best time to gather evidence is when it's fresh. This evidence is now 90 days old. There's obviously more that Congressman Condit can tell. There may be more that his wife can tell. There may be more that members of his staff can tell. They need to have pressure put on them to reveal what they know.
So, Terry, the judge seems to be taking a position they ought to drag a few people in before a grand jury. What about dragging a river?
Well, I think the judge is absolutely right. The investigation has gone on too long. The police are making statements that sound pessimistic, that they're defeatist, and I agree with the judge. We ought to put this in a grand jury with a prosecutor who's experienced, who will organize the investigation. He'll review all the facts and evidence. He'll sort it through. He'll have the benefit of compulsion subpoenas for documents, hard drives, DNA samples, testimony. People will be forced to decide whether to lie under oath and be prosecuted. There's secrecy attaches to this, and therefore these leaks will stop. I think there's a whole plethora of reasons why this ought to be put into a grand jury, not the least of which it will hopefully re-energize the D.C. police and all the law enforcement people who will have a leader over the whole investigation with compulsion and tremendous powers.
All right, hang on a second, Terry. Judge, when you look at the major areas of this investigation, search for clues out in the field, nothing.
Right.
Searching Condit's apartment, evidently nothing. Phone records indicate there was not this giant flurry of phone calls as first reported earlier, so that appears to be going nowhere. When you get zip, 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 nothing all the way through there, are they really back, as I asked Rita, at square one, or is there something we don't know about?
Well,
likely.
Okay, remember, John, the law allows the police to lie. The police can lie to witnesses, they can lie to the press, they can lie to targets, they can lie to the lawyers of targets. They may know something we don't know. But you and I have spoken directly to the police chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. For him to say on national television, we only have a 50-50 chance of finding her, I agree with Rita. They are at square one. So 2 things can be done immediately. 1, declare Chandra dead. That elevates scrutiny even more. 2, bring in the FBI. Assume that she's over interstate lines, her body's over interstate lines against her will. That will give the FBI jurisdiction. The most sophisticated investigative agency on the planet will then be looking for her.
Terry, but I wanted to ask you about the timeline in Chandra's, the last few days of Chandra and Condit's story, but let me ask you something else. You're an investigator. Is it possible in Washington, D.C., to call up the NSA and tell them to reconfigure satellites or to send planes over to look for infrared signs that there's a body out in the woods? Is there something along those lines of a highly technological nature they can do that they haven't done?
That's a terrific question, and the answer is absolutely. In a case I worked on about 8 years ago, almost analogous and on point, a strange wife disappeared supposed to be going to the airport to go to Boston. The husband had a almost nonsensical alibi, and they did, in fact, do flyovers, photographs in areas where she frequented. They did a special count of cars at the airport. There are all kinds of things that can still be done. Unfortunately, the sad ending to this tale is the woman's bones were found about 6 years after she disappeared, and nobody was ever charged with a crime.
Judge Napolitano, is that, from your perch on the bench, when you were on the bench, is that so unusual? A person gets murdered, there's some obvious people to look at, and nothing ever comes of it?
No. I mean, yes, that is very unusual. It is indeed rare that murders are unsolved in this country because police departments are trained to jump on them immediately, to gather evidence when it's fresh, and not to let a trail grow cold, which is what apparently has happened in this case.
You know, Terry, I hate to be this way, but today we saw an anguishing scene of the Levys in front of their house, as they are every day, trying to keep this story alive.
Right.
And Mrs. Levy saying, as an appeal to a kidnapper out there who's holding her daughter alive, take care of her and return her to us. Is that possible, do you think?
Well, anything's possible, obviously, but the problem is it's been so long and there's been no surfacing of a ransom request, which would be the motive, presumably, for taking somebody for that long. There's been no communication. And we know of nobody, apparently, in the neighborhood that's been interviewed that comes under that cloud of suspicion.
Terry Lenzner, private investigator, and Judge Andrew Napolitano, thanks to both of you. We will be talking about this story more a little later in the program. Next on The Big Story, Harlem rolls out the red carpet for Bill Clinton as the former president officially moves into his swank new office space there. Not everyone's welcoming him with open arms. What's the deal with that? We'll bring you the details next.
Wouldn't it be nice to think that lowering your cholesterol
Nothing to it.
was this easy? Well, think again. And start thinking about oatmeal crisp. As part of a low-fat diet, it may help lower your cholesterol. And its plump raisins and crispy flakes with a touch of brown sugar are a really delicious way to do it. So quit dreaming. Wake up to oatmeal crisp and help bring down cholesterol.
Because 2 out of 3 don't get the recommended amount of calcium, and singles are a good source. There's something about Kraft cheese.
The compact Presario 1200T. With an Intel Celeron processor, TFT display, 128 megabytes of memory, and JBL Pro audio, it's one smart investment. And at just $9.99, it's also incredibly affordable. Call 1-888-607-6029 toll-free and get a $50 instant rebate off any Presario notebook with Intel processor.
Tonight, the 3-month-long search continues, and this is your #1 source for coverage, The Fox Report with Shepard Smith. Then,
the people are shallow. The American public is shallow.
is he going off the deep end? Dive into political incorrectness with Bill Maher on The O'Reilly Factor. It's the most powerful primetime lineup in sight, only on the Fox News Channel. Tonight, a congressman under fire. Former Attorney General Ed Meese weighs in. Then, just who picked up the phone when Carolyn Condit called? That's tonight, only on the Fox News Channel.
I am honored to be in Harlem, in New York City, in New York State. You voted for me in 1992 and 1996. You voted for Hillary in 2000. You were there on the darkest days and the best days. And I want you to know I want to be a good neighbor in Harlem.
President Clinton getting into the swing of things as he begins his first day at his new post-presidential offices in Harlem, New York. He even broke out in song, thanking the good folks of Harlem for standing by him during some tough times.
Harlem always struck me as a place that was human and alive. where there was a rhythm to life and a song in the heart, where no matter how bad it was, people held up their heads and went on. You were always there for me, and I will try to be there for you.
So there you have it. If you don't get things right the first time, try again. Today's ceremony in Harlem relaunched Clinton's career as an ex-president. Surrounded by people who idolize him, Clinton was able to bask in the glow of what amounted to rock star coverage. What with the furniture and pardon scandals, Clinton and his advisors felt he didn't get out of the gate properly last January, but that was then. A few ex-President Clinton facts. He has not been out of the news. The New York Times has mentioned his name nearly twice as often as his newly elected senator wife. Forbes magazine says he's getting $100,000 a pop for speeches, and it's piling up. Clinton reportedly found $1 million in his checking account when he went out and tried out his new ATM card. Hey, Bill, they pay interest on that stuff in other accounts. What's in the future? Some people think he will be asked to mediate the Microsoft dispute, and he plans to spend a lot of time on building his presidential library in Little Rock. Also, Clinton spokespeople have said he plans to speak out on issues important to him, but he didn't today. He had the bully pulpit, and he didn't do anything. What's he waiting for? Is he obeying the unwritten rule that ex-presidents should give their successor a little room to operate? Or is he just waiting for the big moment to jump on George W. Bush with both feet? Joining us to talk about that, New Yorker magazine writer Rick Hertzberg and Weekly Standard managing editor Bill Clinton. So, Rick, what do you think Bill was up to today? Why didn't he talk about all the issues that are important to him? Why did he have that kind of just big party?
Well, I was up there today and having a good time along with everybody else. I think he only had one item on his agenda today, and that was just to have a good time and connect with the people that are his new neighbors. I wasn't expecting him to say anything but what he did say, which was, I'm glad to be here, I'm glad to see you all.
Bill Kristol, meanwhile, are the Republicans waiting in the wings for this communications giant to come out and sort of hop up and down on the president like a trampoline?
You know, believe it or not, that it was not the #1 topic on anyone's mind when I was up on the Hill today talking to a bunch of Republicans. But, John, Bill Clinton did talk about the #1 topic for him today, which is himself. I mean, it is kind of remarkable, I think, to go to Harlem and say, you voted for me in 1992 and 1996. You were always there for me. It's sort of an odd way to treat a bunch of his fellow citizens. Their greatest claim to his attention is that they supported him, and that is the Bill Clinton we grew to know and love. And I must say, I vowed when he left office I'd never really waste time talking about him again, and here we are. I guess that's a tribute to him.
Well, it was a big reopening, wasn't it, Rick? I mean, there was this, I termed it a relaunch. Would people on the Clinton side do as well?
Well, I doubt it, actually. I think Clinton is approaching his ex-presidency in a kind of loose, deliberate way. He's not, he doesn't have a big agenda yet. I think he's still feeling his way toward what he's going to do as an ex-president. He's got time. He's going to make life hell for Republicans for 20, 30 more years.
Well, about that, when is he going to start? I think that a lot of people are waiting with bated breath. When is Bill Clinton going to start, as you have, on George W. Bush and the election in Florida and the recount and the Supreme Court, as you write about in the New Yorker? When are we going to hear Bill Clinton on that subject?
Well, I don't know any more about that than you do, John, but I think the time is going to come. And I would expect it to be within the next 2 or 3 months. He's been at loose ends. He really did seem today like he was at home, like he was coming home. I think he's going to settle into that new nest of his and get himself together. And then he's going to come charging out with that Clinton energy that some of us love and all of us know.
Bill Kristol.
I'm not so sure, though, John, if I could just, I mean,
yes.
Rick obviously is right that there is that fantastic energy and that fantastic political talent. On the other hand, his wife is a senator from that very state where he's now set up his office. His wife has political ambitions. She's certainly entitled to. She'll be, she's done a good job, actually, I think from her point of view, for the first 6 months of her Senate term. She'll be an obvious possible vice presidential nominee in 2004. If she's reelected in 2006 to the Senate, she'll be a presidential candidate in 2008. I think if he cares about her, if Bill Clinton cares about Hillary, he's got to be awfully careful about the ways in which he jumps into the spotlight. It's really her turn now, I think.
Well, Bill, I mean, we were talking about the New York Times count. We counted the number of times his name mentioned versus hers, and he came up with a 2-to-1 margin over her, and she's the senator. He's going for a bigger advance on his book. So you think he wouldn't want to show her up a little bit?
Well, I don't know what he wants, but look, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's proud of her. He certainly owes her a lot. She's a senator. I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, if I were, it's not my business to say if I were. I couldn't decide if I would be in her shoes or his shoes, and it's such a ghastly thought. I was just going to leave it alone.
Bill Kristol, thanks. Rick Hertzberg, thanks. We will follow this with much anticipation. Coming up a little more than halfway through its first year in office, how is the president doing? The president, G.W. Bush, White House advisor Mary Matlin, will be here to defend the Bush record so far on The Big Story.
My doctor says I'm healthier than he is. I swim every day.
If you suffer from arthritis pain, speak to your doctor.
The lake is good for your soul.
Tylenol arthritis pain, as effective as the most prescribed arthritis pain medicine, but much gentler to your stomach.
When I swim, I'm free.
Tylenol arthritis pain. And to help promote joint flexibility, try a Flexa, a glucosamine supplement.
Lose up to 10 pounds this weekend. With the Hollywood 48-hour miracle diet, lose up to 10 pounds in just 2 days while you cleanse, detoxify, and rejuvenate your body.
I lost 8 pounds in 2 days. I lost 2 dress sizes.
2 days later, I lost 10 pounds. Order now to lose weight for only $24.95. You'll love how easy it is to lose up to 10 pounds this weekend or your money back. Call now.
That's 1-800-NEW-DIET. Ask about our special TV offer. Call 1-800-NEW-DIET or visit us at 48hourdiet.com.
Why are so many people switching to IDT long distance?
5 cents, actually. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for joining IDT. Enjoy the savings.
Because we offer the simplest low-cost long-distance plan available. Just 5 cents a minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for every state-to-state long-distance call you make. We don't waste money on celebrities and gimmicks. We just offer the best long-distance available at the lowest possible price. Just 5 cents a minute, all day long, every single day of the week. And IDT has 6-second billing, so you never get charged for time you don't use. No complicated billing plans with rates that change depending on the time of day. No prepayments for time you may lose, and no annoying 1010 numbers to dial. Just the best long distance available at the lowest possible price. For real savings in the real world, call IDT right now. We're waiting for your call.
5 cents a minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. IDT long distance. No one does it for less.
Keep it right here on The Big Story. More Chandra. We've got Mary Matlin on the Bush presidency. Does W need to pick up the pace? That is just 1 minute away right here on The Big Story. Stay with us.
Honey, I ordered a movie.
In every home, in every heart, movies have become as much a part of Americana as apple pie and the community ballpark. It's where families and friends enjoy the magic of the movies of our time. Share the experience. Tonight, pick up your remote instead of your car keys. Order a pay-per-view movie from Dish On Demand.
Order it now on pay-per-view. They were a dream team, determined to go for the red.
Find a good parking space?
We're eating dinner on Mars.
But now, their only way out is sudden death.
What the hell is going on?
Come on, come on!
Val Kilmer, Carrie Ann Moss, Tom Sizemore. Order Red Planet now on pay-per-view. May the last man win.
Is the Chandra Levy story taking airtime away from President Bush, making it difficult for him to get his message out about his policy? Or, on the other hand, is it giving him cover, protecting him from criticism for not getting certain things done? Our next guest, Mary Matlin, advisor of the president, counselor of the vice president, standing on the White House lawn. Mary, the president is doing well in the job approval polls, but he isn't getting a lot of airtime lately. How's he doing?
He's doing his job, John. Congratulations on your new job, by the way.
Thank you.
He's doing his job, working Patients' Bill of Rights very hard this week. Our comprehensive energy policies go to the floor this week, so he has in record time as we head out for the home to the heartland here has accomplished his signature issues. Tax cut. People are spending their tax rebate checks right now. Education is well underway, faith-based well underway, so he's working. And I think people can follow two stories at the same time, and if nothing else, they certainly can count those dollars that they're now spending.
Okay, after the tax cut, though, he's had a little bit of a problem with his own Republican Congress getting certain things passed. I cite energy and the exact patient bill of rights that he wants. Why is he having trouble with Republicans?
It's a very both sides, both chambers are very close, and we have always had a big tent in the Republican Party. We are going to pass the first steps of a comprehensive energy plan this week. That'll be the first one in a generation, and he's not having trouble. He is changing the patient's bill of rights from one that would favor trial lawyers to one that would favor patients. He really wants a job that's not going to kick people off of the insurance rolls. If you're not, the statistics are, if you don't have health insurance, you're far more likely to die or contract serious or exacerbate your illness. So he wants people to get health care. That's what he's trying to get done. So he doesn't consider that trouble. He considers that doing what he came here to do, which is lead.
Well, I'll also bring up the energy plan. Now, I've said many times here, I'm in favor of drilling in Anwar, and so is the president, but that one isn't moving. What about the rest of it? He seems to be getting trouble from people who want energy prices to go down. In a way, it's sort of hard to understand. By the way, the approval polls are up on the screen. He maintains a 63% approval with men and a 56% approval with women.
You know what the president said when he came here and the vice president when they got elected? We didn't come here to mark time. We came here to get something done. There's a reason there hasn't been a comprehensive energy plan in a generation. It's because these are hard issues, but they're also issues on which the American public needs to be educated, and the vice president keeps saying it's 3 yards and a cloud of dust. You have to keep working it. This is not just comprehensive, but a balanced plan with lots of conservation, lots of alternative fuels. It's a plan for the 21st century. But our demand in this highly technical society is not going to be met with our existing supply. And you can conserve about this much, but to close that gap, you have to have new production. You have to have clean production. And that's what, as even the Clinton administration agreed, exploring in the North Slope of Alaska would be the largest new oil discovery or province in a decade. So it's irresponsible not to go up there, and I wouldn't call it a slow starter. There's been the unions understand that this is clean and affordable energy. It provides a lot of jobs. There's a lot of Democrats who are looking at it. So let's just see where the vote comes down, John, before we write that one off.
Before I let you off, Mary, how did the president feel about that little elbow he took from former President Carter last week?
I have heard no mention of it, and you know, he again is a real indication of a leader is one that's resistant to that kind of harping and criticism, and his father certainly didn't do that to any of his predecessors or his successors, and I think in the Bush tradition, this Bush is also just doing his job keeping focused on that.
Mary Madeline, it's always good to see you. Thanks very much for coming on today.
Congratulations.
Thank you again. Straight ahead here on The Big Story, what is the story with Iron Mike Tyson? Could he be behind bars again? Our Heather Nauert is following the story. Heather?
Hi, John. Mike Tyson may be in trouble again. This time a California woman is alleging that he raped her. The question is, what's going on with that? We're trying to find out whether this story is real or whether Mike Tyson is just a magnet for trouble. That's straight ahead on The Big Story.
Can I get life insurance at my age, in my health?
I'd like to leave my loved ones with a little something when I'm gone, but I'm afraid I'm too old to get life insurance.
If you're like these nice folks and thought life insurance after 45 was impossible to get or impossible to afford, I've got good news. If you're 45 to 79, Physicians Life guarantees you up to $10,000 of permanent modified whole life insurance, designed to help your family with the expenses they will face. There's no medical exam, no health questions. You can buy this policy if you're 45 to 79 and you're insured for life. Just $1 pays for your first month of protection. After that, you can continue at an affordable monthly renewal rate that can never go up. Plus, your coverage can never be canceled no matter what your age or health. Easy to get and easy to afford. Now let me tell you why this protection is so important. All of us someday will leave behind expenses for our loved ones to pay. There's no escaping it. Those expenses can easily add up to thousands of dollars. You know, some people even expect the government to take care of these expenses. But the fact is, Social Security pays a death benefit of just $255, and only if you qualify. That's why I urge you to take a look at this plan. It's one sure and affordable way you can help leave your loved ones with dollars instead of debts. For all the details, just call the toll-free number to get this free information kit from Physicians Life. You get it directly by mail. There's no cost or obligation of any kind. You're just calling for information. This is one phone call your loved ones will be thankful for later. So call right now.
We're here when you need us. Physicians Life.
Tonight, the 3-month-long search continues, and this is your #1 source for coverage, The Fox Report with Shepard Smith. Then,
the people are shallow. The American public is shallow.
Is he going off the deep end? Dive into political incorrectness with Bill Maher on The O'Reilly Factor. It's the most powerful primetime lineup in sight, only on the Fox News Channel. Next, it's a $1 billion license to steal. Pentagon credit cards. Who's footing the bill? You can bet your bottom dollar it ain't Uncle Sam. Details next on Special Report with Britt Hughes.
The sound of silence is deafening from Congressman Gary Condit as the search for Chandra Levy moves to a new site. How much longer can he stay quiet and survive on the Hill? We'll tackle that question. Plus, terrifying in the ring and out of it, former felon and heavyweight champion Mike Tyson facing another rape accusation. Last time, a jury found him guilty and threw him behind bars. What's the story this time around? We'll take a look. And speaking of rape charges, guess who wants to represent the people on Capitol Hill? William Kennedy Smith. Could a man who once stood trial for rape, be acquitted, have a shot in a congressional race? We'll try to answer that question. We'll have all that and much more straight ahead on the big story. First, a quick check on the other stories making headlines today. And for that, we go to Todd Connor at the Fox News Desk. Hey, Todd.
Hey, John. Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee wants to turn the tables on the FBI. Vermont Democrat Patrick Leahy says Congress will take a hands-on approach with the FBI until the agency's problems are fixed. Leahy spoke as his committee opened the confirmation hearing for FBI Chief Nominee Robert Mueller. Mueller told the panel he would make it his highest priority to restore the public's confidence in the FBI. Former President Bill Clinton makes his move on up to Harlem. Thousands cheered as the post-White House office officially opened today in New York City. Clinton sang "Stand By Me" to thank the crowd for standing by him during his darkest hour. Comic Paula Poundstone will be back in court next month to face child abuse charges. In a court session today, a judge put off setting a preliminary hearing date. Poundstone's lawyer says his client's drinking problem will definitely be a factor in her defense. And finally, Eric LaSalle says he's finished operating for NBC's hit show ER. LaSalle, who joined ER in 1994, says he'll leave the show after the coming season. Obviously, the good doctor can afford to leave. He's in the final year of a contract worth an estimated $27 million. And those are the latest headlines. Now back to the big story with John Gibson. John.
All right, Todd, thanks a lot. Now, don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to tell you about the investigation into Congressman Gary Condit and the disappearance of Chandra Levy in just a moment. First, your Market Movers Report with Terry Keenan.
No big news means no big moves on Wall Street. Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Keenan with your Market Movers Report. The gavel going down on a rather lackluster Monday. Stocks barely budging as the summer earnings parade finally winds down. Here's how the Dow wrapped up the session, dropping nearly 15 points. The Nasdaq off 11 points. The S&P 500 slipping more than a point. One stock generating a lot of excitement with investors, Heller Financial, the commercial lending operator, soaring nearly 50%. Which just so happens to be the premium that General Electric's GE Capital unit agreed to pay for the company. GE, on the other hand, falling more than $1 on worries it may be shelling out too much money for Heller. The total deal comes to more than $5 billion. Intel shares inching back a bit despite unveiling its new Pentium 3 chip for laptops. The #1 chip maker says that the new processors should speed up laptops by about 50%. And the generic drug maker Ivax falling more than $5 on news of fresh competition. The FDA gave the green light for another company to produce a competing generic cancer drug.
Adobe Systems dropping about $2.50. The company expects its third quarter profits to be in line with estimates, but says its sales will fall short as a result of the slow economy. And the apparel maker Tommy Hilfiger picking up nearly 7% on the day. The fashion designer beating the street by 2 cents a share in its first quarter. And those are your market movers. I'm Terry Keenan.
Back now to our top story this hour. It's probably the last thing the Levys want to hear, but D.C. police now saying there's only a 50-50 chance Chandra Levy will be found and the case be solved. And as far as investigators are concerned, Congressman Gary Condit is very nearly off the hook, at least for now. Former Deputy Independent Counsel Saul Weisenberg joins me now with his legal opinion on this. So, Saul, the one thing that we got 0, 0, 0, 0 everywhere. I mean, they're not finding much in his phone calls. They're not finding much in his house. They're not finding much in the search. But there is the watch case. There is that box he deposited in a garbage can in the stealth of the night just before his apartment was searched. What does that mean to this investigation? And at this point, since everything else is 0, how big is that?
We don't know exactly what it means because we still don't know exactly what information the police and the FBI have. However, I am surprised that more attention wasn't focused on this. There are a lot of complaints that the media is spending too much time on the case in general, but really there hasn't been that much focus on what was, if it happened, a really incredible act. One night before his apartment was about to be searched, well into what is clearly a criminal investigation, the congressman apparently disposed of evidence in a surreptitious manner. I'm just very surprised that there hasn't been more focus on this. Supposedly, if what we believe is true, there was already a grand jury impaneled looking into obstruction of justice when this act occurred.
So what is it? One of the reasons I've heard that this thing has gotten played down a little is evidence of what? What is the watch box evidence of as it has to do with the disappearance of Chandra Levy?
Well, the important thing is that the congressman doesn't get to decide himself what is relevant evidence or what isn't relevant evidence. This goes back in a way to something your earlier guests, Judge Napolitano and Terry Linsner, were talking about. If there had been a grand jury from the beginning in this case, and let's not forget, the U.S. Attorney's Office could have impaneled a grand jury from the get-go in this case. It's called a GJO, a grand jury original. Just because they don't have a suspect, just because they don't know if there has been a murder, doesn't mean that they can't impanel a grand jury. If they had impaneled a grand jury from the beginning, if they had subpoenaed Congressman Condit from the get-go and said, we want not only you to produce everything you have that relates to Chandra Levy, but we want you to produce everything that you have relating to any relationship you have had with a prior staffer. This would have been covered by a subpoena, and it would have been much more difficult for him to have gotten rid of it. Now, that doesn't mean that he's off the hook by any means. It's a very serious thing, and I imagine it's being looked into.
Well, do we know, or would we know, because grand jury activities are secret, would we know if a GJO had been impaneled?
Not necessarily. You make a good point. The prosecutors themselves can't talk about it. Only witnesses can talk about it. But given the incredible amount of talking that the D.C. Police Department has been doing, I think that if there had been an original grand jury impaneled fairly early, we would have heard about it from somebody.
So is the most productive way to continue this investigation to go on searching the woods, the rivers, to send satellites up in the sky to look for infrared spots that may be a body, or to start dragging people in, getting them under oath, and asking them hard questions?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive. And as you point out, we don't know exactly how much grand jury activity has been going on. But John, you can do a lot more with the grand jury. There's so much you can do in terms of forcing people to come in. And you can subpoena somebody like the congressman to come in, and then he faces a choice as to whether or not he's going to come in or he's going to take the fifth. Now, you might say that's something that's a private decision that he doesn't even have to reveal to anybody that he's been subpoenaed. But he could very well be asked on the campaign trail, have you been subpoenaed to the grand jury, and what did you do? And then he would probably, as a practical matter, be forced to answer. And if I could say one more thing, if we have the time.
Go ahead.
I just find it, I've mentioned this in passing before, I find it amazing that the D.C. Police Department would say, as some unnamed official has said repeatedly to the press, that the throwing away of the watch case has nothing to do with the disappearance of Chandra Levy. I imagine if there is a federal prosecutor looking at the congressman for obstruction, that statement was very, very frustrating to him or her.
All right, let's talk about the lie detector test. Is it true that after all this talk about will he sit for a lie detector test and who's going to administer it, his guys, the FBI's guys, whoever it is, that the real lie detector test is sitting before a grand jury under oath, making the choice to tell the truth there or face the consequences if you lie and you get caught?
I agree with you. And of course, a normal defendant who faces exposure can be told by his attorney not to go to the grand jury. But somebody who's a public official, you've got more leverage over him as a prosecutor because you know that he might have to face the court of public opinion later. But I'll tell you something else about the lie detector. That's another thing that I find interesting. There was a lot of media focus on this. And then when he got his own private lie detector through his attorney, it's like everybody stopped paying attention to it. Now, I'm not a huge believer in lie detectors, but if you give the impression that you're going to cooperate with the police and that you want to take a polygraph examination, and then you don't do it, and you wait 3 days to send it over, and the police make noises that indicate they can't even connect the chart to the answers you gave, where's the public pressure on him to go and take the police-administered polygraph test? The police seem to have given up on this now. I find it baffling with all the media attention that there's not more pressure on him to go in and take that test.
Former Deputy Independent Counsel Saul Weisenberg, thanks very much for your opinion. We'll talk to you again. Straight ahead on the big story, Mike Tyson, rape conviction, now round 2, question mark, could be another black eye for the former heavyweight champ. Another woman now accusing him of sexual assault. Heather Nauert brings us the details next on the big story.
Because 2 out of 3 don't get the recommended amount of calcium, and singles are a good source. There's something about Kraft cheese.
Pasta. Chicken fettuccine. Bene. Va bene. Sì. Routine. Perfetto. Molto bene. Anche bene. È pronto. Basta. Ciao, Antonio. Mangia. Good, huh?
Introducing Uncle Ben's Pasta Bowls. Satisfy your passion for good food.
The clarinet is part of my life, and it's always come easy for me. Then, a few years ago, I started having breathing problems. So this became a part of my life. But I never could get the hang of it. It just wasn't working for me. So my doctor took me off the inhaler and put me on a nebulizer.
And you know what? It works great. And Medicare covers it. What's even better is this company called Liberty Home Pharmacy. They delivered a nebulizer and my medication right to my door.
Hundreds of thousands of people trust Liberty. Liberty's a Medicare provider, so they bill Medicare and your insurance company for you. That means no upfront costs and no claim forms to fill out, and delivery's free. Liberty's staff of specialists is on call for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One call to Liberty can help make following your doctor's orders a lot easier.
My breathing problem is something I have to deal with. But not having to deal with all the rest of it, well, that gives me time to enjoy the sweeter things in life.
For more information on free home delivery, call 1-800-734-2195.
I'm extremely humble, but I'm tired of people taking advantage of me and trying to bully me around or trying to antagonize me. And what do you expect to do? Suppose you were in my situation. You know what I mean? And it's been pervasive for so many years that I'm a bad seed, so that stigma follows me.
It follows him indeed. Mike Tyson in it again. He was out in a training camp in Big Bear, California, which is east of Los Angeles, and Now, a woman has come forward to claim that she was raped by Mike Tyson. The report was filed July 16th, 2 weeks ago. The police have been investigating, but haven't got to the bottom of it. Heather Nauert is here with us now. What have you found out?
Hi, John. Well, of course, in 1992, Mike Tyson went to jail for 3 years for raping Desiree Washington, the beauty pageant contestant. As you said, 2 weeks ago, this woman came forward. We know she's an adult, and she said that Mike Tyson raped her. She's gone through some medical tests so far. The police won't release the results of that. Mike Tyson allegedly did this at a home he was renting up in Big Bear, California, as he was training for his next big fight, which is supposed to take place September 8th of this year. And today we talked to the man who prosecuted Mike Tyson in the Desiree Washington case, and he attempts to answer the question as to whether this case is real or whether Mike Tyson was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And here's what he had to say.
With a guy like that, first of all, who's high profile by definition, those guys are always under the microscope. And so trouble finds them. You know, I've said before, there's no such thing as a good place to be at 3 o'clock in the morning, except at home if you're famous.
What is Mike Tyson's M.O.? Does he perhaps prey upon young, impressionable women and try to attract them with his celebrity status?
To say that he's got a modus operandi would probably be to overstate things. What I know of him from the case that we prosecuted and the investigations that we were involved in is that he will manage to separate out a woman who he's interested in on occasion and then force himself in her direction. Sometimes he takes no for an answer, sometimes he does not.
What are the chances that this woman could have just entirely made up this story?
It's a jump ball, Heather. I mean, at this moment, we don't know a thing. You know, you can accuse anybody of anything at any time. There are always people who are prepared to exploit an opportunity and to take advantage of their proximity to a famous person and not have any real facts to back them up. It is more likely that a man who's done that kind of a crime before, committed that kind of crime before, will do so again. And if that's what happened here, I think that fits the mold pretty well.
Greg Garrison, of course, prosecuted Mike Tyson in Indiana. What about Tyson's people? He's left the Big Bear area. He's off to Phoenix. Have they made a statement about this?
All they have said is that they will cooperate with police. They have been asked to come up to California to give a statement, and they have not yet done so. Of course, you know, all this really just came to light late last week, and the police up in Big Bear, California, have said, we want to talk to him. We want to hear what he has to say.
All right, Heather Nauert reporting on the Mike Tyson situation. Heather, thanks a lot. Turning now to Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, Greg Garrison said jump ball. Every time Mike Tyson goes on a date, does he have to have a criminal trial?
Well, he seems to have a reputation for being a little on the aggressive side, and there is a line between acceptable interaction and criminal behavior.
Of course, but it's also, he is a guy where, and I'm not saying it happened in this situation, where a woman could say, I can make this allegation. At the very least, if I recant it later, maybe Tyson's side gives me a check. In any case, I get famous or whatever. I mean, because of his history, isn't he open to this kind of allegation, even if it's not true?
Yes, he is open to this kind of allegation. Any public person who has a history of this kind of violence with women, any public male who has this history of violence with women, is open to this type of allegation and risk. On the other hand, maybe he needs a chaperone. Maybe he needs a warden of a prison, because perhaps he can't control his urges as he must in a moral, civilized society. We don't know.
What do you make of it, that this is now 2 weeks old? This woman made this allegation 2 weeks ago. The police have been conducting some investigation with her, and they have asked for help from Tyson. Why don't you come up and make a statement? But there's been no charge yet. All right. 2 weeks go by, no charge. What do you make of that?
2 weeks is a long time for there to be no charge in a rape case, because a rapist, especially one with a criminal history, is deemed a danger to society. And no matter who this person is, the police want to lock him up right away. So I would suspect there is some credibility on what she says, but not enough evidence even to charge Tyson, and that's why he's still free.
All right, Judge Andrew Napolitano helping us out, as Heather Nauert did, to figure out what is going on with Mike Tyson. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it is time for My Word. Just a hint, William Kennedy Smith. Remember that name? Well, there's more on him.
This program is brought to you by Staples. Staples has everything you need for your business at guaranteed low prices.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's that time of year again.
They're going back! It's back to school time at Staples. Over 7,000 supplies at guaranteed low prices. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Staples. Yeah, we've got that.
Yes.
What do you say to investors who are a little frightened of the current market?
Is this a good time to get out?
I've been in this business now for 40 years, and I've seen at least 12 other serious corrections as we're having right now. It's just part of investing. You've got to take the ups with the downs. The important thing is an appropriate diversification within your portfolio. Yes.
What do I do right now?
If you have questions like this, call 1-800-3-SCHWAB today to sign up for our complimentary workshop navigating today's market.
Remember William Kennedy Smith? He stood trial for rape. He was acquitted. Now he wants to serve you on Capitol Hill. Is that nuts or the American way? We'll tackle that next on The Big Story in just count 'em 2 minutes.
Jumping out of planes and rolling out of boats. Being a SEAL is something I've always wanted to do ever since I was a kid.
I'm doing something really cool right now. I'm in charge of a $32 million piece of equipment.
Through the training you learn to be a lot more driven and focused. I definitely picked the right job.
Well, without the Navy, I wouldn't have had money for college.
My parents are very excited that the Navy was going to pay for 4 years of college.
The Navy has many educational opportunities. I could do anything electrical out in the civilian world.
I never realized I was going to get all the additional high-tech computer training and the travel all at the same time.
I've traveled to Philippines, Thailand, Australia, you name it, I've probably been there.
What you've seen is just part of the story. Call this number now for your free 12-minute video and see how the Navy can jumpstart your life. Check out the jobs, training, and money for college that are waiting for you.
If you want an exciting job, this is where you need to be.
Navy, accelerate your life.
Are you losing the battle of the bulge? Then you need the Abdoer system, designed to aerobically burn fat as it flattens your abs in just minutes a day. Look, ab machines strengthen muscles, but won't reduce your waist. And some exercises can make your muscles bigger. Only the Abdoer's rotating torso trimmer targets your upper abs, lower abs, and obliques, all in one fat-burning circular motion. You'll flatten your stomach in weeks, not months. We guarantee it.
Before I started using the Abdoer system, I was very unhappy the way I looked. Ever since I started using the Abdoer system, I started seeing immediate results, and I feel so much happier and more confident in everything I do.
These machines cost up to $8,000. The Abdoer does the work of all these machines, and now it can be yours for 6 payments of only $29.95. But wait, call within the next 10 minutes, and we'll make the last payment for you. Plus, you get the Abdovix nutritional guide and motivational video free. We guarantee you'll lose at least 2 inches in just 10 days, or your money back. Order today.
So now it's time for My Word. Did you hear the news that William Kennedy Smith is thinking about a run for Congress from his home district in Chicago? This is the same Kennedy who 10 years ago went through a celebrated televised trial. He was accused of rape. The alleged victim was portrayed for a long time as the witness with a blue dot over her face. Remember that dot? She was eventually fully identified, and he was eventually acquitted and resumed his medical career. It was a raging scandal at the time, with testimony about Senator Ted Kennedy wandering around the Kennedy Palm Beach compound wearing only a shirt, if you dare to imagine that, asking his nephews to pop out for a quick late-night drink at a pickup bar. So, after all this time, William Kennedy Smith feels safe enough to step back into the spotlight as a possible candidate. What does this say about the trouble Congressman Gary Condit seems to be in? If Condit is stewing about what happened to his life and reputation, he can look to Kennedy Smith. He can also look to Bill Clinton, who made a triumphant reappearance today, not to mention Mike Tyson, who actually served time in prison for rape. And when another allegation is lodged against him, what did the world do? Howl in protest? Hardly. The news has been greeted with a yawn. William Kennedy Smith may never be a congressman, but it appears he has proved that a fresh scandal, scribbled on top of an old one, takes all the bite out of the old one. Who gets much excited about Gary Hart and Donna Rice these days? Nobody. So does all of this make the Chandra Levy story less a story? Not at all. It's still a mystery. It could be a murder. The Levys are still anguished. These are the profound elements of human drama and suspense in this story. How will it turn out? We all want to know. As for the congressman, if it turns out he is not involved in the Levy disappearance in any way, he will have to deal with the wreckage of his life the search for Chandra has revealed. Revealed, not created. He created this stuff himself. But he should take heart. Kennedy Smith is yet more proof that America has a short memory. That's my word. Now it is time for your word. This is from Phyllis in Utah about the Condit story, but it could be about so many others. She writes, "The thing that amazes everyone is that they can lie and be foolish with a straight face." Yes, Phyllis, they do that. Muriel Grovier makes a good point. She writes, "I find it inconceivable that Ms. Levy would not have known her method of transportation," she didn't know how she was getting home, "before her bags were packed. I'd suggest that someone other than Ms. Levy surfed the web on her computer." Well, Muriel, they say it was her because they can recognize her signature activity. John Egolf in Alabama writes, "If Condit is not a suspect in the Levy disappearance, then I never understood any criminal investigation." We presume John was a professional criminal investigator. And Richard Bulgarelli in Texas writes, "Whether or not Condit had anything to do with the Levy disappearance, he is hurting the Democratic Party." Richard thinks that Condit should get out. On the subject of former President Jimmy Carter giving the business to G.W. Bush, Sue Hopkins in Tahlequah, Oklahoma writes, "Jimmy Carter, I believe he is getting senile." Sue's kind of tough on him. "He has forgotten 20% interest rates, prisoners in Iran, and long gas lines." That is your word. You can get your email on the air to me by writing me at myword@foxnews.com. Here are the rules. No spam, no attachments, just a short note from you, and we'll put it on the air. Back to wrap things up right after this.
Yesterday, allergies took you out of it. Today, Allegra can help bring you back. Only Allegra has fexofenadine for once daily relief for people 12 and older. Side effects include headache, upper respiratory tract infection, and back pain. Call your doctor now for more information. Allegra, enjoy your world.
Get out, you scum. X14 Soap Scum Plus foams away scum.
Herbal Fresh X14. Scum hates it. Noses love it.
I don't have to vacuum to freshen my carpets. I've got Carpet Fresh No Vacuum. Foam it on, odors are gone. The carpet's freshened with no vacuuming. Carpet Fresh No Vacuum.
I'm Father Time, and I like things that last a really long time. That's why it's 2,000 flushes for my throne. 2,000 flushes. We measure in months, not weeks.
There are many good reasons to get a home security system from ADT.
We're home. This is where we live.
Some smaller than others. So it's no surprise that more Americans choose ADT to help protect their homes than any other company. We're always there with the most sophisticated technology and skilled professionals, helping to keep you safe from burglary, fire, flood, even carbon monoxide. ADT blankets your home with an invisible wall of protection. And now you can get an ADT burglary system installed from just $99. Plus, for a limited time, get 2 months free monitoring. At ADT, we give you more than a security system. We give you a feeling of security, no matter what.
Daddy's got you.
Call now and get ADT protection installed from just $99. And for a limited time, get 2 months free monitoring. ADT. Always there.
Fox News Channel means business.
Wall Street capping its worst week ever as the markets exploded. What it could mean to you and your investments.
The skinny, the lowdown, the buzz, the word on the street, the top CEOs and policymakers that make the market go. The most powerful name in news, Fox News Channel.
Next, it's $1 billion license to steal. Pentagon credit cards. Who's footing the bill? You can bet your bottom dollar it ain't Uncle Sam. Details next on Special Report with Britt Hume.
That wraps it up for the big story today. Up next, Special Report with Britt Hume. Bush picks his FBI, the man to head his FBI, and the nominee says he's got a lot of work to do to fix that agency. Also, Jim Engel will have a report on getting better gas mileage in those big SUVs. Government credit cards, what's that all about? And it's all coming up on Special Report with Britt Hume in just a moment. In fact, here's Britt.